Florida still has spots where retiring won't drain your life savings. In fact, some of these towns are so cheap, you'll think somebody typed the price wrong. We're talking homes going for less than what most people spend on air conditioning bills down here. And no, this isn't a scam, a bait and switch, or a buy one house, get a swamp free deal. These are actual communities where the sun shines year-round, neighbors still wave from their porches, and your dollar stretches so far it feels illegal. Of course, there's always a little twist. One place might have golf carts zipping through intersections like it's Daytona. Another might come with a free daily visit from the neighborhood alligator. But that's Florida living. Today, we're rolling through 23 retirement spots where the cost is low, the charm is high, and every single town will have you asking, wait, how is this even real? Number 23. Winter Haven. Winter Haven is one of those Florida towns where you look at Zillow, see the price, and immediately assume it's a typo. Median home prices here usually float way under what you'd pay on the coast, and the overall cost of living is about 10 to 15% cheaper than the state average. The town's nickname, Chain of Lakes City, is no joke. With more than 50 lakes, locals treat their pontoon boats like minivans. People literally cruise across the water to grab lunch, and retirees spend mornings fishing like it's a full-time job. Add in the fact that groceries, healthcare, and even utilities run cheaper than in Tampa or Orlando, and Winter Haven starts looking like a retirement cheat code. The catch? You're living next door to Legoland. On weekends, the traffic gets swamped with tourists, hauling sugar-rushed kids and strollers big enough to carry a Labrador. But honestly, if the worst part of your week is dodging a few minivans, that's a small price to pay when your mortgage is less than what someone in Miami drops on lattes every month. Number 22. Inverness. Inverness might sound like it belongs in the Scottish Highlands, but nope. It's a Florida town where retirees come for the affordability and stay because they can actually afford to buy more than just a condo. Housing here is well below the Florida average, and the cost of living doesn't make you clutch your Social Security check in despair. Groceries, utilities, and even property taxes are manageable, which means your retirement dollars actually stick around long enough to enjoy life. The charm of Inverness is its mix of small-town friendliness and outdoor living. Surrounded by lakes and nature trails, this place is a paradise for folks who like fishing, kayaking, or just pretending to fish while secretly napping in the boat. The downtown area has that classic Americana vibe: mom-and-pop restaurants, antique shops, and diners where the waitress calls you hun before you've even sat down. It's one of those places where Friday night means a community event or live music on the square, rather than battling traffic like in the bigger cities. And let's not forget, Inverness is part of Citrus County, which might as well be called Florida's golf cart capital. Seriously, retirees here treat golf carts like second cars. You'll see them zipping around town, decked out with little flags, coolers, and occasionally a dog riding shotgun like it's completely normal. Add in the fact that the Withlacoochee State Trail runs right through town, perfect for biking, walking, or showing off your power walking speed, and you've got a lifestyle that balances activity with relaxation. Of course, like every Florida town, it has its quirks. Summers are sticky, mosquitoes don't exactly respect personal boundaries, and the occasional gator sighting is just part of the deal. But for retirees who want an affordable, laid-back community with just enough quirk to keep life interesting, Inverness is one of those spots where your money stretches and your golf cart gets more mileage than your actual car. Number 21. Ocala. Ocala is where retirees discover they can live surrounded by rolling horse pastures without paying Palm Beach prices. The median home price here sits comfortably below the Florida average, and the overall cost of living is about 10% cheaper than the national norm. Property taxes won't make you faint, and day-to-day expenses like groceries and healthcare run more manageably than in the big metro areas. Known as the horse capital of the world, Ocala boasts an identity that's a blend of country charm and equestrian luxury. You don't need to own a horse to fit in, though. Plenty of retirees settle into quiet neighborhoods, spend weekends at farmers markets, and enjoy being just a short drive from Silver Springs State Park, where crystal clear waters make kayaking feel like floating through a postcard. It's a sweet spot for folks who want nature without total isolation. But here's the twist. Ocala can feel like two cities in one. On one side, you've got beautiful horse farms, charming downtown restaurants, and nature trails galore. On the other side, parts of town are rough around the edges, with stretches that feel more forgotten than polished. Still, if you want affordable Florida living with a touch of southern charm, and you don't mind the occasional horse trailer slowing down traffic, Ocala is a solid bet. Number 20, Titusville. Titusville is one of those towns that makes you do a double take when you see the housing prices. While Florida's coastal cities are busy charging luxury prices for shoebox-sized condos, Titusville still has homes floating around that won't blow up your retirement account. The overall cost of living here is below the national average, which means your Social Security check doesn't disappear the second it lands. Retirees love the fact that they can buy a comfortable house, cover utilities, and still have room in the budget for fresh seafood and weekend road trips. In a state where affordable usually comes with a hidden asterisk, Titusville actually delivers. Now, what makes this place special is its front row seat to space history. Titusville sits right across from the Kennedy Space Center, so instead of watching the usual Florida sunsets, you might be sipping your morning coffee on the porch and suddenly see a rocket light up the sky. Most people have to book hotels and fight crowds to catch a launch, but in Titusville, it's just another Tuesday. It gives retirement here a little spark, literally, and it's hard not to feel like you're part of something bigger when you can casually watch humanity blast into orbit from your backyard. But life here isn't just about rockets. Titusville has that small-town Florida feel, where people actually know their neighbors and diners still serve pie that tastes like it came straight out of Grandma's oven. There are plenty of fishing spots, low-key shops, and seafood joints that won't charge you Disney prices for a shrimp basket. Plus, the beaches are just a short drive away, which means you get all the perks of coastal living without paying coastal rent. For retirees who want water views without sacrificing their entire retirement fund, this town is a bargain, hiding in plain sight. Of course, Titusville isn't perfect. Some areas feel rough around the edges, and if your idea of retirement includes a buzzing nightlife scene, you'll probably find yourself heading to Orlando for entertainment. But for most retirees, the trade-off is more than worth it. Cheap housing, a slower pace of life, and a daily dose of rocket launches that make you feel like a kid again. Titusville may not have the polish of the big cities. But it's got character, charm, and affordability, and that's a combination you don't see often in Florida anymore. Number 19, Dunellen. Dunellen is the kind of place you stumble onto and immediately wonder why more people haven't figured it out. Housing prices here are noticeably cheaper than most of Florida, with plenty of homes still within reach of a modest retirement budget. The overall cost of living sits well below the state average, which means your monthly expenses won't eat you alive the way they would in Orlando or Miami. Retirees moving here quickly realize their dollars stretch a whole lot further, and that means more money left over for fishing rods, kayaks, or just spoiling the grandkids when they visit. What makes Dunellen stand out is the Rainbow River, a spring-fed paradise that's so clear you can see straight to the bottom. Locals float down it in inner tubes, retirees kayak at their own pace, and just about everyone agrees it's one of the most beautiful natural spots in the state. Imagine swapping traffic jams for mornings drifting down a crystal-clear river surrounded by palm trees and wildlife. That's retirement Dunellen style, and it beats paying $600,000 for a condo on the coast any day. Life in town moves at a relaxed pace. There are small shops, cozy diners, and just enough local events to keep things interesting without overwhelming you. Fishing is practically a way of life here, and with the river and lakes nearby, you'll never run out of new spots to cast a line. Healthcare and groceries also come cheaper than in Florida's big hubs, so you're not stuck choosing between paying your bills and enjoying a night out at the local steakhouse. For retirees who value peace, affordability, and easy access to some of Florida's best outdoor beauty, Dunellen is a hidden gem. The flip side? Don't expect city-style conveniences. There aren't massive shopping malls, trendy bars, or endless entertainment options. The nightlife is more bonfire and beer than cocktails and rooftop DJs. But that's the whole point. Dunellen isn't trying to be Miami. It's for retirees who want quiet mornings, affordable living, and the bragging rights of floating down one of Florida's prettiest rivers whenever the mood strikes. It may not be flashy, but it's the kind of affordable retirement town that makes you wonder why you'd ever pay more somewhere else. Number 18. Mount Dora. Mount Dora is proof that not every charming Florida town comes with sky-high prices. While places like Naples will have you coughing up your life savings for a two-bedroom, Mount Dora keeps things reasonable, with housing that's still affordable compared to most of the state's hotspots. The overall cost of living is slightly under Florida's average, so retirees find their money stretches a bit further here than in the flashier coastal cities. Property taxes won't knock you off your rocking chair, and day-to-day costs, like groceries and utilities, are manageable enough that you don't have to choose between a sea in the summer or keeping food in the fridge. What sets Mount Dora apart is its personality. The town has been called the Festival City, and it lives up to the name with events for everything. Arts, antiques, crafts, you name it. The historic downtown is full of quirky shops, vintage stores, and cafes where retirees linger over coffee like they're auditioning for a Hallmark movie. The lakeside setting makes it even better. Sunsets over Lake Dora can make you forget all about Florida's humidity and occasional wildlife encounters with lizards that somehow always find their way into your screened porch. Daily life here feels like stepping back in time in the best possible way. There's no rush, no stress, and neighbors actually know each other by name, a rarity in Florida's bigger cities. Retirees especially love the walkable downtown, the farmers markets, and the fact that healthcare and essential services are close by without the chaos of a huge city. Add in the slightly cooler weather, yes, even a couple degrees makes a difference when it's August in Florida, and Mount Dora starts looking like retirement gold. The only catch? Mount Dora is no secret. Tourists love the town's festivals and charming vibe, which means weekends can get a little crowded with out-of-towners snapping pictures and asking where the antique shops are. If you're a retiree who wants complete peace and quiet, this might feel like too much foot traffic. But for most folks, it's a small price to pay for affordable living in a town that looks like it was designed for front porch sunsets and leisurely days. Number 17. Lake Placid. No, not the one with the giant crocodile movie. This Lake Placid is in Central Florida, and instead of horror, you'll find murals, lakes, and some of the friendliest people around. The town calls itself the Caladium capital of the world, which basically means flowers everywhere. So if you like colorful gardens, you'll feel right at home. The cost of living here is surprisingly low for a town that looks like a postcard. Homes are still affordable compared to coastal Florida, and your grocery bill won't make you feel like you're shopping at Beverly Hills prices. The downtown is painted with giant murals on nearly every building, which makes even a simple walk feel like a tour through an outdoor art gallery. Retirement in Lake Placid feels peaceful, with over 24 lakes to fish, boat, or just sit by with a good book. It's the kind of place where you can sip sweet tea on the porch, listen to the crickets at night, and not worry about traffic jams. Unless you count waiting for a sandhill crane family to cross the street. Number 16. Sebring. Sebring is one of those Florida towns that proves retirement doesn't have to be boring or bankrupting. Known as the City on the Circle, thanks to its historic downtown roundabout, Sebring gives you the kind of small-town charm where people still wave at you in traffic. Though, let's be honest, Half the time they're probably just trying to figure out how to get out of the circle without missing their exit. Housing prices here are refreshingly affordable, and the cost of living sits comfortably under the Florida average, which means your retirement nest egg won't fry faster than an egg on a dashboard in July. What sets Sebring apart is its vibe. It's laid back but never dull. For one, it's home to the famous Sebring International Raceway, which hosts a 12-hour endurance race every year. Retirees may not be into high-octane sports cars, but you can bet it keeps the town buzzing with energy. Plus, when the race isn't on, the pace slows back down to the kind of quiet that makes you actually hear the birds again. Between Lake Jackson and a handful of smaller lakes, water lovers get all the fishing, boating, and sunset views they desire. The downtown area has been spruced up in recent years, and it's packed with local restaurants, thrift shops, and cafes, where retirees swap stories about the good old days, while sipping coffee that costs half as much as it does in Miami. And unlike Florida's busier retirement havens, Sebring still feels authentic. More front porch rocking chairs, fewer overpriced wine bars. You don't need a platinum credit card to enjoy life here. A lawn chair and some bug spray usually do the trick. Number 15. Okeechobee. If you're looking for a Florida town where life revolves around one giant thing, Okeechobee is it. That one thing happens to be Lake Okeechobee, the largest freshwater lake in the state, and basically the town's backyard swimming pool, fishing hole, and front-page headline all rolled into one. Housing here is still on the affordable side, and the cost of living is far from the sticker shock you get on the coasts. Retirees come for the prices, but they stay because the lake gives them something to do every single day. Okeechobee life is all about the outdoors. Bass fishing is practically a religion here, and you'll see more boats than SUVs in some neighborhoods. Morning walks turn into birdwatching tours, and afternoons often mean sitting by the water with a cold drink, swapping fish stories you'll definitely exaggerate later. There's a quiet, small-town feel. No skyscrapers, no endless traffic, just wide-open skies and neighbors who wave whether they know you or not. But here's the reality check. Okeechobee is rural. If you want luxury shopping malls or fine dining every night, you'll be in the car for a while. The summers are hot, the mosquitoes treat you like an all-you-can-eat buffet, and the nearest big city energy comes from West Palm Beach, about an hour away. Still, if retirement to you means affordable living, lakefront sunsets, and a life where flip-flops count as formal wear, Okeechobee just might be your sweet spot. Number 14. Brooksville. Brooksville is the kind of Florida town where you can stretch a retirement dollar so far it practically snaps back at you. Housing here is still remarkably affordable compared to the Florida average, and the overall cost of living doesn't hit you like a surprise HOA bill. Retirees find that groceries, gas, and even healthcare feel lighter on the wallet, making Brooksville one of those hidden gems where fixed income doesn't mean fixed lifestyle. What makes Brooksville stand out is its old Florida charm. Picture oak-lined streets draped in Spanish moss, historic Victorian-style homes, and a downtown square that looks like it hasn't changed much in decades. In a good way. There's a slower pace here that retirees love, but it's not the kind of slow that makes you wonder if time stopped. It's more like the sit on the porch with sweet tea and watch the world go by kind of slow. Add in the rolling hills, yes, actual hills in Florida, not just speed bumps, and you've got scenery that feels different from the flat sprawl most people imagine. Brooksville is also big on outdoor life. The Withlacoochee State Forest is practically in its backyard, which means hiking, biking, horseback riding, and camping are all part of the local menu. For retirees who want to keep active, it's a playground that doesn't require a pricey membership. And if you'd rather fish or kayak, there are rivers and springs nearby that look like postcards come to life. The best part? You can enjoy all of this without fighting tourist crowds or shelling out beach town prices. Of course, Brooksville isn't all sunshine and lemonade stands. It's quieter, which means nightlife is basically crickets. Literally. And yes, the summer humidity still shows up with a vengeance, like everywhere else in Florida. But for retirees who want affordable living, a strong sense of community, and a place that still feels like real Florida instead of a resort brochure, Brooksville delivers. Just be ready to trade late-night clubs for potluck dinners and farmers markets, which, honestly, sounds like a win.
Number 13, Punta Gorda.
Punta Gorda sounds fancy, like the kind of place where you'd expect yachts and high price tags. And yes, you'll see yachts, but here's the twist. You don't need Wall Street money to live here. Homes are way more affordable than you'd guess for a Gulf Coast town, and the cost of living doesn't drain your retirement account the second you step outside. It's one of those rare Florida spots where you can enjoy waterfront vibes without selling a kidney. This town has personality, too. Punta Gorda is big on harbor views, fishing piers, and walking paths that make you feel like you're in a postcard. The pace is slow, the sunsets are dramatic, and you'll probably end up learning your neighbor's dog's name before you learn theirs. It's got that small-town feel, but with enough polish to make you think, yeah, I could stay here a while. Of course, it's not perfect. Hurricane prep is part of the deal, and if you're allergic to retirees driving golf carts at 12 miles per hour, you might need patience training. But people keep moving here for a reason. You get coastal living without the coastal prices. And when you're sitting by the water watching the sky turn pink and gold, you'll probably forget that you once thought retirement meant boredom. Here, it feels more like a second act.
Number 12, Dade City.
Dade City is proof that not every affordable Florida retirement spot has to come with a beach view. This town trades sand for rolling hills, which in Florida is practically a tourist attraction on its own. Housing costs here are refreshingly reasonable. The cost of living won't flatten your wallet, and you still get that old-school small-town charm that's hard to find these days. If you're looking for a place where people still wave at you on the street and neighbors bring you actual casseroles, this is it. Here's the fun part. Dade City has a quirky personality. It's famous for its annual Kumquat Festival. Yes, kumquats. Those tiny citrus fruits nobody really knows what to do with, but everyone pretends to love for the weekend. Imagine an entire festival built around pies, jams, and anything else you can stuff a kumquat into. It's the kind of oddball event that makes a town feel alive, and retirees here lean into it with pride. Add in antique shops, little cafes, and diners that look like movie sets from the 1950s, and you've got yourself a retirement town with character. Of course, life here is quieter than the big Florida hotspots. Nightlife basically means grabbing pie and coffee downtown, and your idea of excitement might be spotting a wild turkey on your morning walk. But for retirees looking to stretch their savings in a town that's affordable, welcoming, and just a little bit quirky, Dade City checks the boxes. Plus, you'll never run out of kumquat jokes to confuse your grandkids with.
Number 11, Lakeland.
Lakeland is one of those towns where you move thinking you're just saving money, and then suddenly you're bragging about swans like they're part of your family. Housing prices are still affordable compared to the bigger Florida cities, and the cost of living is reasonable enough that you won't be deciding between air conditioning and groceries in July. It's got that sweet spot balance, city-sized amenities without city-sized bills. Now, about those swans. The city is famous for them, and here's the kicker. The original swans were a gift from Queen Elizabeth II back in the 1950s. Yep, real royal swans. Retire here, and you'll be living in the only Florida town where birdwatching feels like a British royal pastime. Add in dozens of lakes scattered throughout the city, and it starts to feel like a water lover's playground. Fishing, kayaking, or just sitting on a bench tossing breadcrumbs. Lakeland makes it easy to fill your afternoons without emptying your wallet. Day to day, Lakeland gives you just enough action to keep things interesting. There's a revitalized downtown with craft breweries, little shops, and restaurants that don't require you to cash out your 401k just to order dessert. But it's not Miami, and thank goodness for that. Traffic is manageable, life feels slower, and people actually make eye contact instead of honking at you for existing. Of course, it's Florida, so yes, it's hot. And yes, the humidity will turn your shirt into a towel by 9 a.m. But retirees love Lakeland because it delivers affordability with charm. And because, let's be honest, telling your friends up north that you live in a city full of royal swans is way more fun than admitting you just moved for cheaper property taxes.
Number 10. Fort Pierce. Fort Pierce is the kind of Florida retirement spot that makes you wonder why it isn't on every glossy magazine cover. And then you realize that's exactly why it's still affordable. Housing prices here are shockingly reasonable for a coastal town, and the cost of living won't leave you choosing between paying your electric bill and buying bait for fishing. It's got that rare mix of ocean views, small-town pace, and a price tag that doesn't feel like daylight robbery. What makes Fort Pierce stand out is its personality. Nicknamed the Sunrise City, it delivers exactly what it promises. Mornings that look like paintings, and beaches that aren't swarmed by tourists holding selfie sticks. Retirees here wake up to water views, local farmers markets, and seafood so fresh you half expect the fish to jump into the frying pan themselves. Downtown has that artsy but unpretentious vibe, with galleries, live music, and restaurants where the servers actually remember your name. And here's where Fort Pierce really wins. Community. It's not just a retirement hub. It feels like a small city where people still care about their neighbors. You've got festivals, cultural events, and waterfront walks that make you think, wow, I really did trade snow shovels for palm trees. Sure, it's Florida, so hurricane season is part of the fine print, but retirees stick around because the perks outweigh the prep work. Number 9. Leesburg. Leesburg is one of those Florida towns where retirement doesn't mean downsizing your life to a shoebox apartment. Housing prices here are still surprisingly reasonable, especially for a spot with lakes on practically every corner. The cost of living won't make your pension cry either. Utilities, groceries, and healthcare are all manageable, which means you can stretch your Social Security without switching to a ramen-only diet. Retirees here get the rare combo: affordability plus all the perks of small-town Florida living. What really gives Leesburg its personality is the lakes. Lake Harris, Lake Griffin, Lake Dora. It's like someone spilled a bucket of water over a map and called it a day. If you like fishing, boating, or just sitting on a dock pretending you're in a country song, Leesburg is your place. Every spring, the town also hosts one of the largest bike fests in the country. Now, it's not your gentle retiree bicycle crowd. We're talking Harley-Davidsons rumbling through town. But it adds a little edge and energy to a community that otherwise feels laid back. Day-to-day life here is pretty relaxed. Downtown has been spruced up with shops, local diners, and antique stores, where you can find everything from vintage furniture to that lava lamp you threw away in 1974. Retirees love that it's not overrun with tourists, so you can grab a meal without waiting in a line that stretches out the door. And if you want bigger city amenities, Orlando is about 45 minutes away. Close enough for a day trip, but far enough that you don't have to deal with theme park traffic on your daily errands. Number 8. Crystal River. Crystal River is one of those Florida towns where retirees move in thinking they're just here for the low cost of living, and then they end up bragging to their friends that they swim with manatees on the weekends. Housing is still affordable compared to most coastal towns, and everyday expenses don't eat you alive. That means you can spend your retirement enjoying the outdoors instead of worrying about whether you can afford the electric bill. This place is all about nature. Crystal clear springs run right through town, and in the winter, manatees migrate here like it's their annual vacation spot. Locals are so used to them, they'll casually say things like, "Oh yeah, we had a couple manatees in the backyard this morning." Retirees love it because it feels like living inside a nature documentary, except you're not paying tourist prices to watch it. The town itself is cozy and laid back.
Think small restaurants serving fresh seafood, local shops with that old Florida vibe, and neighbors who actually stop to chat instead of rushing past. It's not Miami nightlife, but that's the charm. You get quiet evenings, waterfront sunsets, and the kind of peace that lets you actually hear the crickets. The only downside? Summers are humid, and the mosquitoes seem as loyal to the area as the manatees. But hey, affordable living, natural beauty, and bragging rights that you literally swim with sea cows? Not a bad retirement deal.
Number 7. Clewiston. Clewiston calls itself America's sweetest town, and it's not just a marketing gimmick. It sits right in the heart of Florida's sugarcane country. Retire here, and your neighbors might literally work in sugar production, which explains why the annual Sugar Festival is the town's big claim to fame. Housing is still cheap compared to most Florida towns, and the cost of living is low enough that you won't be stressed every time the utility bill shows up. If affordable and simple is what you're after, Clewiston checks the boxes. The vibe here is pure small-town Florida. Life is slow, neighbors know each other, and downtown feels like a snapshot from a few decades ago, in the best way. The town borders Lake Okeechobee, so fishing and boating are everyday hobbies, not luxury weekend trips. Retirees find it easy to stay active with outdoor living, and when festival season comes around, the whole town turns into a giant block party, complete with music, food, and, of course, enough sugar to put you in a happy coma. Now, don't expect glamorous nightlife or high-end shopping. Clewiston is rural, and that's part of its charm. The entertainment here is more about barbecue cookouts, church socials, and small-town parades than fancy wine bars. Summers are hot, mosquitoes don't bother asking permission, and the pace of life is slower than most people are used to. But that's exactly why retirees like it. Affordable living, lake access, and a community that feels genuine, not polished. If you want simple and sweet, Clewiston lives up to its nickname. Number 6. DeLand. DeLand feels like the kind of town where time slowed down on purpose, just so people could enjoy their sweet tea in peace. It's a college town, home to Stetson University, which means you get a lively main street with cafes, bookstores, and the occasional student playing guitar on the corner. But unlike most college towns, retirees love it here too, because the cost of living doesn't come with the usual campus price tag. Housing here is still affordable compared to the Florida hotspots, and you get all the perks of a charming, historic downtown without the overcrowded theme park vibes of Orlando, even though it's just about 40 minutes away. The local art festivals and farmers markets make weekends feel full, and the small-town feel hasn't been bulldozed by chain stores yet. And let's be honest, retirees in DeLand get the best of both worlds. You've got the beaches of Daytona less than half an hour away if you want sand between your toes, but you can also retreat back into the calm of a shady port swing in a town where neighbors actually wave. Think of it as Florida without the chaos, but with just enough quirk to keep life interesting.
Number 5.
Quincy. Quincy isn't the first place retirees think of when they picture Florida, and honestly, that's the charm. Sitting just west of Tallahassee, it's one of those small towns where you still see old brick warehouses, wide front porches, and streets lined with historic homes that somehow survived Florida's obsession with bulldozers and condos. The cost of living here is way below the state average, which means your retirement savings stretch like a good piece of southern taffy. You'll find homes that look like they belong in a history book, but cost less than a one-bedroom apartment in Miami. Grocery prices and local services are also easy on the wallet, so you're not nickel and dimed every time you leave the house. What makes Quincy stand out is the sense of community. It's not a tourist stop, so when you settle in, you actually become part of the rhythm of the town. Farmers markets, small-town festivals, and neighbors who wave when you walk by are all part of the package. Retirement here feels less like a financial survival strategy and more like stepping into the kind of slow-paced lifestyle people secretly dream about. Number 4, Palatka. Palatka is the kind of Florida town where the houses are so cheap, you start wondering if you're on a hidden camera show. You can still find homes here that cost less than a new pickup truck, and the overall cost of living runs about 15% below the national average. For retirees who don't want their savings chewed up by overpriced beach condos, Palatka is like finding money in your old jeans. What makes it interesting is the mix of small-town charm and oddball character. Downtown has murals splashed across old brick buildings. There's a yearly Blue Crab Festival that somehow attracts half the state, and the St. Johns River cuts right through town, giving you killer fishing and kayaking spots. Retirees here get that laid-back riverside lifestyle without having to cash out their 401k. But let's be real, Palatka isn't Palm Beach. It's rough around the edges. It's not winning any trendiest retirement city awards. And you'll probably have to drive to a bigger town if you want fancy shopping or high-end dining. Still, if your idea of retirement is more sit on the porch with sweet tea than sip martinis in a high-rise, Palatka hits different. Number 3, Arcadia. Arcadia is one of those towns that feels like Florida before Florida got too crowded and expensive. Known for its historic downtown and massive monthly antique fair, it's the kind of place where you might go just to browse and end up leaving with a grandfather clock you didn't know you needed. Retirees love it here because the housing prices are still down to earth and the cost of living is low enough that your retirement check feels a little fatter than usual. The charm of Arcadia is in its slower pace. Picture old brick buildings, little diners where the pie is always homemade, and streets lined with oaks dripping in Spanish moss. You're not dodging tourists every 5 minutes like in Orlando or Miami. Instead, you're meeting the same friendly shop owners each time you step out. What's great about Arcadia is its location. You're only about an hour from the Gulf Coast beaches, so day trips to the sand are easy, but you get to come home to quiet nights and way cheaper rent than any beach town offers. It's the kind of retirement spot where peaceful isn't just a word. It's the daily vibe.
Number 2, Chiefland.
Chiefland proudly calls itself the gem of the Swanee Valley. But, honestly, it feels more like Florida's best-kept secret. This is small-town living at its finest. Simple, affordable, and surrounded by some of the most underrated nature in the state. If your idea of retirement involves peace, wide-open spaces, and a budget that actually works, Chiefland might be your sweet spot. The cost of living here is refreshingly low. Housing prices won't make you clutch your chest, and daily expenses are more in line with what Florida used to be before everything skyrocketed. Retirees appreciate that their Social Security check can cover more than just the basics. Here, you can actually splurge on dinner out or a weekend getaway without guilt. And let's talk nature. You're right by Manatee Springs State Park, where you can literally swim or kayak alongside manatees in crystal clear water. The Swanee River is close too, offering endless fishing and boating options. Life in Chiefland moves slowly, but that's the whole point. It's a place where your biggest decision of the day might be whether you're grilling fish or burgers for dinner. Number 1, Apalachicola. Apalachicola is one of those towns where retiring feels like stepping straight into a postcard. This small fishing town on Florida's Panhandle is famous for oysters so fresh, you'll start questioning every seafood dinner you've ever had inland. Housing prices here are surprisingly reasonable for a coastal spot, and the cost of living stays low enough that your retirement dollars can actually stretch past Tuesday. The town itself has a quirky charm. Historic buildings have been turned into art galleries, mom-and-pop diners still serve pie the way your grandma used to, and the harbor is full of working boats. A reminder, this isn't a made-for-tourists beach town. Retirees love it because you get that salty air lifestyle without the chaos of Miami or the crowds of Clearwater. The vibe here is slow, friendly, and a little eccentric.
Locals who've been fishing these waters forever swap stories on the docks, and you quickly realize this is the Florida everyone else seems to have forgotten. After checking out all these Florida towns, it's clear that retirement doesn't have to be expensive, boring, or full of traffic jams. You can stretch your savings, enjoy quirky charm, soak up the sun, and still have stories to tell. Like the time you floated down a river, found a hidden coffee shop, or high-fived a manatee. Florida's hidden gems are ready and waiting. And honestly, you've just got to pick your favorite spot and start living the dream.